The story of Stanford White, beyond the HBO series, is far darker and more complicated. His glittering career was matched by a scandalous personal life, and it all ended in one of the most sensational murders of the young 20th century. Imagine this. It's the summer of 1906, a warm evening in New York City. You're seated in the rooftop theater of Madison Square Garden, the great entertainment palace that dominates Madison Square. The orchestra is playing a lively tune. Couples are laughing over champagne, and the city's elite mingle beneath the stars. Suddenly, 3 sharp cracks cut through the music. At first, the audience thinks it's part of the show, but then they see the blood. The man slumps forward in his chair. The crowd gasps. Women faint. Panic erupts. The trial that followed would be dubbed by the 1906 press as the trial of the century. And here is the cruel irony. The man who has just been gunned down is none other than the architect of the building itself, Stanford White, perhaps the most celebrated designer in New York's Gilded Age. This wasn't just a murder. It was the scandal of the young century. Sex, power, and revenge that tore open the glittering facade of the Gilded Age. Hey, you're watching Journeys Through History. I'm Greg, a professor who talks about history and cultural studies. If you like this kind of journey, like and subscribe to the channel. And tell me in the comments your thoughts about the Gilded Age, HBO's Gilded Age, or Stanford White. Join us for more Journeys Through History. Stanford White was born in 1853 and rose to fame as a partner in the architectural firm McKim, Mead and White. Together, they reshaped New York City in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. White had a talent not only for grand architecture, but also for grand interiors. He was a master of Beaux-Arts design, blending the classical European traditions with American grandeur. His hand is visible in the Washington Square Arch, the original Pennsylvania Station, and of course, the second Madison Square Garden, which opened in 1890 with its famous tower and rooftop garden theater. Many of these buildings are no longer with us, though we know their names through several contemporary locations and structures. The HBO series, The Gilded Age, captures something true about White. He was not just an architect, but a cultural impresario, a tastemaker for New York's elite. Wealthy industrialist families, like the fictional Russells, turned to him to design their homes, which became showcases of opulence and status. But while White was celebrated publicly as a man of refinement, privately he was living a much more complicated and troubling life. White was known for his charisma. He could move easily among the Astors, Vanderbilts, and new money millionaires. But he was also notorious in private circles for his indulgences, extravagant dinners, parties in secret apartments, and a reputation for pursuing very young women. It was in this shadowy side of his life that he met Evelyn Nesbit. Nesbit was a teenage chorus girl, strikingly beautiful, and soon celebrated as the most beautiful girl in America. White cultivated her, introducing her to fine dining, art, and luxury. Their relationship turned sexual under circumstances that Evelyn later described as exploitative, involving alcohol and coercion. This affair would become White's undoing because Evelyn was also the object of obsession for another man, Harry Kendall Thaw. Harry Thaw was the heir to a Pittsburgh steel fortune, fabulously wealthy but deeply unstable. He was eccentric, erratic, and increasingly violent. He courted Evelyn, but When she revealed her past relationship with White, his jealousy turned to fury. Thaw came to see White not merely as a rival for Evelyn's affections, but as the very embodiment of the decadent, corrupt New York elite. To Thaw, White symbolized everything rotten about the Gilded Age. Men of power using wealth to seduce, exploit, and dominate. This triangle, White, the architect, Evelyn, the ingenue, and Thaw, the jealous millionaire, was combustible. Whatever his faults, White was an exceptionally talented architect. He was a partner, as we've said, in the architectural firm McKim, Mead, and White, and the homes he designed personified the Gilded Age. Tourists still come from far and wide to see Rosecliff, the Beaux-Arts mansion he designed in Newport, Rhode Island. In addition to the palatial dwellings he designed for the Astors and the Vanderbilts, White created large public buildings, the most magnificent being the 8,000-seat Madison Square Garden. This building was the second of what would be 4 different Madison Square Garden buildings. The circular building we know today being the 4th. The first Madison Square Garden was demolished in 1889. Vanderbilt, who owned the land, cited a lack of profitability in the venue and sold the land to a consortium of esteemed buyers, including J.P. Morgan and Andrew Carnegie. By 1890, a new Madison Square Garden opened with a Beaux-Arts Moorish design by the young, celebrated architect Stanford White. It cost over $3 million, or nearly $88 million in 2020 dollars. The arena was primarily devoted to boxing. However, it also hosted expos, circuses, and other entertainment. There was a lavish rooftop garden theater, and White commissioned Augustus Saint-Gaudens to create a copper sculpture of the goddess Diana to top the structure. When it was completed in November 1893, the 700-pound sculpture was balanced carefully at the top of the Madison Square Garden Tower. Diana remained there for the next 32 years until the building was demolished. In the 1890s and early 1900s, Madison Square Garden was the place to be and to be seen. On June 25th, 1906, the rooftop theater of Madison Square Garden was filled with music and laughter. Stanford White, wearing his trademark wide-brimmed hat, was seated at a table enjoying the performance. Evelyn Nesbit was also there, accompanied by Harry Thaw. Just before midnight, as the orchestra struck up a song titled "I Could Love a Million Girls," Thaw rose from his seat, walked calmly across the rooftop, and approached White's table. Without a word, he drew a pistol and fired 3 times at close range. White collapsed instantly. The crowd was stunned, but thought it was part of the show. But when they saw the blood, chaos erupted. The irony was undeniable. The architect of Madison Square Garden had been murdered in his own masterpiece. If the murder shocked the audience, the trial that followed shocked the entire nation. Newspapers could not get enough of it. It was the perfect scandal. Sex, wealth, celebrity, and violence. Evelyn Nesbit became the reluctant star of the courtroom, her every word scrutinized, her beauty plastered across front pages. She testified about her relationship with White, painting him as a seducer and manipulator. Thaw's defense team seized on this, portraying him not as a murderer, but as a gallant avenger, defending the honor of the young woman. Now, the first trial ended with a hung jury. The second trial delivered a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. Thaw was committed to a mental institution, but his wealth ensured relative comfort, and he was eventually released. Evelyn's life spiraled. Her fame curdled into notoriety, and she spent decades struggling with financial hardship. In the years after his murder, His architectural achievements remain standing, admired for their beauty and grandeur. But Stanford White's reputation was forever tarnished by the scandal. No longer remembered simply as the genius of McKim, Mead, and White, he became, in the public imagination, the tragic and scandalous victim of his own indulgences. Here again, HBO's The Gilded Age offers us a window into how White wished to be seen, the elegant architect, indispensable to New York society, moving comfortably among the wealthy elite. That portrayal is accurate, but remember, it's only half the story. The other half is much darker. The exploitation of young women, the violent revenge of Harry Thaw, and a sensational murder that pulled back the curtain on the excesses of the Gilded Age. So, when we watch the Gilded Age and we see Stanford White portrayed in all his architectural brilliance, it's worth remembering the fuller, messier story. He was a man whose genius gave New York some of its most iconic landmarks, but whose personal life revealed the dangerous entanglement of wealth, sex, and power. On June 25, 1906, all those threads came together in one shocking moment on the rooftop of Madison Square Garden. The glittering Gilded Age had always been built on fragile foundations. And on that night, beneath the music and champagne, it collapsed into scandal and blood. Until next time, safe journeys.